welcome to Criminal Women Wednesday. I am, of course, Claire Huxtable 2.0, and tonight I'm bringing you a special treat. That's right, you can see her right behind me. She looks really crazy, right? Well, this is Marjorie Deal Armstrong from Erie, Pennsylvania. And if you had a chance to watch Netflix, you've seen Evil Genius, right? So, long story short, before I dive into the craziness that is Marjorie Deal Armstrong, let me just tell you this. In so many words, a guy robbed the bank with a bomb around his neck and he exploded on national TV. National TV. Look at her, look at her. And later on, I'll show you a picture of your girl before she went stark, raving mad. But anyway, let's talk about Marjorie Deal Armstrong, right? So she was born in 1949. Extremely smart, extremely brilliant, but also extremely crazy, okay? Like 5 different disorders type of crazy, right? So she had schizophrenia, mania, she had personality disorder, also narcissist disorder, and she was also bipolar, but I think I already said that, right? So Marjorie knew from an early age that she was not right in the head, right? So she ended up going to a psychiatrist on her own accord. And she would talk to the psychiatrist and pretty much say, I don't know what's wrong with me, but something ain't firing right in my brain. I mean, look at her. Look, come on, look at her, right? So anyway, she ends up becoming this massive hoarder, right? The house is junky. She's collecting and keeping all different types of things. The police go into her house and the stench alone was enough to make them think that she has lost all of her marbles. But anyway, let's go to the story. Now, first of all, we have the players in this thing. Now, Marjorie Deal Armstrong was, of course, a narcissist, so she was able to get anybody to do the bidding for her. So we have, of course, Marjorie Deal Armstrong, extremely brilliant, extremely attractive. Well, she used to be attractive, you know. She used to be a looker. But let me tell you what mania will do to you, okay? But anyway, we have, of course, Marjorie Deal Armstrong. We have Brian Wells, who is the guy who blew up on national TV. We also have William Rothstein, and I'll get into him later because he was kind of sketchy, all right? We also have Kenneth Barnes, which apparently was Marjorie's friend. They would fish together. We have Floyd Stockton Jr., who is a known pedophile who was up on criminal charges for activities with minors, okay? I ain't got to tell you what activities with minors mean, okay? So, but anyway, and we also have Jessica Hoopsick, who was a prostitute that pretty much delivered Brian Wells to the conspirators and kind of sort of had something to do with his death, okay? So, here is the story. Like I said, Marjorie was extremely brilliant. She was an only child and extremely close with her mother. So when her mother died, Marjorie pretty much lost all her marbles, right? And so she would tell the psychiatrist, hey, I was very close to my mother. When she died, I just didn't have no one else to turn to. Now keep in mind, Marjorie had a whole father, okay? An entire daddy, right? But then she goes on to say, and this goes into why she was such a hoarder and became so nasty in her old age, right? Her mother was a very clean woman, clean living, everything in its place, nothing out of place, right? So I'm guessing when Marjorie's mother passed away, Marjorie just said, to hell with cleanliness. From the looks of the video, it didn't seem like Marjorie wore a bra, washed her hair, or gave a damn about what she put on her body, okay? And as you can see right there, sis ain't got no eyebrows, okay? But I'll get to that later because she tried to play crazy when they put her ass in jail. But anyway, like I said, Marjorie had a lot of disorders, right? But one thing that came out during the documentary was Marjorie clearly is a sociopath, okay? Clearly a sociopath. And so, technically, she was a serial killer as well. Now, aside from this particular case with Brian Wells and how he just exploded on national TV, if you saw the documentary, you know what I'm talking about. Netflix did not edit that part, okay? I had to go back and rewind it and make sure I really saw a whole human explode on national TV. And he did, in front of a lot of cops and bystanders. Traumatic, to say the least. But anyway, Marjorie seemed to be the end-all be-all to the men that she dated, okay? Marjorie has killed before, okay? Back in 1984, her first husband, Robert Thomas, mysteriously ended up shot in the chest. So when they took her to trial, she had the defense of, Robert was very abusive to me. We stayed fighting. He tried to abuse me that night that I shot him, and so on and so forth. Guess what the court did? You know what? That defense sounds legit. Marjorie, you're free to go. Did Marjorie stop there? No. The second boyfriend, who turned into be her husband, which is why her name is hyphenated into Marjorie Deal Armstrong, was Richard Armstrong. 4 years later, y'all, 4. He just so happened to stumble and fall and hit his head on the edge of the coffee table in the home. Now, later on, he ended up dying from a cerebral hemorrhage. So we got 1984, boyfriend dead. 1988, husband dead. It doesn't stop there. The very last man that she murdered or had murdered was her current boyfriend until, she shot him, James Rhodes. Now, apparently, James Rhodes was this really super quiet guy, stick to himself, really loved Marjorie. If Marjorie could even be loved, but James Rhodes was this type of dude, right? So in 2003, she shot him. And that leads us to the current matter before us, the pizza bomber incident in Erie, Pennsylvania. So here's the story. On August 28, 2003, a group of conspirators, those players I told you about before, got together and devised a plan to have a patsy rob a bank for them. Okay? So, the patsy, of course, being Brian Wells. So, they get on the phone and they order a pizza because Brian Wells was a pizza delivery guy for a local pizzeria in Erie, Pennsylvania. Brian delivered pizza for almost 30 years, okay? 30 years, right? So the thing about Brian is he liked scavenger hunts, weird puzzles, and he also liked hookers, okay? He also liked hookers. So they call for this pizza. Brian goes to what he thinks may be a house, but it's not. It's a television tower that is not too far from William Rothstein's home, okay, down on Peach Street. So let's remember, Peach Street is the place to be unless you're Brian Wells, okay? So apparently, when Brian Wells gets to the TV tower to deliver the pizza, there's differing stories about this, right? They pretty much attack him, put a bomb collar around his neck, put a shirt over him, and say, hey, go rob a bank, PNC Bank down in Pennsylvania. We need you to go follow these instructions. If you deviate from the instructions, we will detonate the bomb and you will die, right? Oh, and for good measure, when you go to rob the bank, take this cane that's also a shotgun, okay? Good luck to you. So Brian goes off on this wild scavenger hunt, and it's not too clear whether Brian knew about the plot or was just a dumb patsy. I'm of the belief that Brian was in on the plot, but not so much down for dying by bomb, okay? So, Brian goes into PNC Bank, and he just moseys on in. There's camera footage of him just frolicking on into the bank. You can clearly see there's a bomb device strapped to his head, right? To his neck. He walks in, goes to the teller, and says, hey, I need $250,000. The teller says, I ain't got it, but here's $8,000. And so Brian goes, cool, give it to me in a sack. I'm going to take one of these suckers. You know, the banks used to have suckers on their counter. He took a sucker, put it in his mouth, walked out. By that time, Pennsylvania police show up. They corner him. He ain't going nowhere. Now, what they didn't know was Brian had to get to the McDonald's to get another clue to deactivate the bomb. He never made it that far. Okay? So what Brian ended up doing was he's cornered by the police. They sit him down. They approach. They realize that Brian has a bomb strapped to his neck. Very intricate bomb with a lot of different things that would throw police officers off or people, bomb squad or whatever. So Brian goes on to tell them, hey, a bunch of black people did this to me. They want some money. They'll kill me if I don't go back with the money. All right? So police approach and they see, shit, Brian's got a bomb around his neck. So they back off. They cord off all the perimeter because Brian's got a bomb. They also close off the street though. So traffic is at a standstill and the bomb squad can't get to Brian to disarm the bomb. So we're watching on this documentary. National TV footage is rolling. Brian says, hey, I think this bomb is real. Could you guys go to the McDonald's and get the key for me and kind of help me out here? Like, it's one of the clues. I need this key so I don't die, right? So along the way, the ticking of the bomb gets louder and louder. And so Brian is now very nervous. He's visibly shaking. He knows he's about to blow up. So he pleads with the police, please get the bomb. Please get the key so I can disarm this thing. I think it's real and I don't have a lot of time. The police do none of the sort, right? Eventually, we see Brian on camera being streamed to the news because this is a standoff at this point. He's being streamed to the news. Bomb goes boom. And we see Brian thrown back. He's not totally shredded, but he has one hell of a chest wound, okay? One hell of a chest wound. Now, Brian is now laid out. He dies. Police approach. Bomb squad finally gets here. They try to disarm the bomb. They're successful, even though they had a lot of different decoys to disarm this thing. But the trick is the neck collar was so tight, they had to cut Brian's head off to get the device off. Because, of course, the bomb now is evidence, so we can't leave it with Brian. And Brian as a whole can't be an entire body of evidence, but we need this bomb. So they proceed to cut his head off. This man has just been blown up with a neck bomb, and now the coroner, and from what the coroner says on the documentary, we did it in the most humane way possible. I don't know how you humanely cut off a head of a dead person, but I'll take his word for it, right? So they begin the investigation, right? They come to find out that Wells may have been an unwitting participant in this whole ruse, right? So here are some of the motives that people think happened with the reason why Marjorie and her group of merry men decided to rob this bank and blow up this man, right? So police get a call from William Rothstein. And the backstory behind William Rothstein is he was in love with Marjorie. Like I said before, as in love as one could be with a sociopath and a narcissist, okay? So Bill Rothstein had a major crush on Marjorie, and they were friends. So apparently Marjorie called Bill and said, hey, I need you to get rid of this body. I need you to chop it up, grind it, and get rid of the body parts. Well, the body was her boyfriend, James Roden. Remember she shot him? This bitch put him in the freezer, y'all, for safekeeping, I suppose. So when Bill Rothstein got to the house, he said, Marjorie, I can't do this. I can't grind up a body and cut up the parts. And so he decided, let me just go ahead and call the police, right? So police bring William Rothstein in for questioning, and he gives them the whole tea, all the tea, right? And points the finger at Marjorie. So, of course, police officers take Marjorie into custody. They start questioning her, and because she's a narcissist, she does not shut up. You hear everything from I'm a genius, high IQ, multiple degrees, I don't have to kill nobody, why would I kill a pizza man, boom, boom, wham. The police aren't buying it because they really think Bill Rothstein is credible. Okay? So throughout the course of the investigation, Bill Rothstein is taking these police officers into the house. And spoiler alert, he's also a hoarder. Very nasty. Okay? Very tall, very big man, and also very nasty. Okay? So he's walking through the house and telling them, yeah, I dragged the body downstairs and I put him in the basement and I just kept him there. I didn't know what to do. Blah, blah, blah. Okay? So they try to get more information out of Bill Rothstein, but unbeknownst to them, Bill Rothstein has cancer. He goes to his grave with the rest of the details of this pizza bomber incident. Still pointing the finger at Marjorie. Marjorie is still pointing the finger at him. No one knows who done it. So now let's get into the motive. There, like I said before, there's a lot of different motives and speculation as to why Marjorie did this. And even if she's actually the mastermind, because some people think William Rothstein was the mastermind behind this, okay? But here are some of the motives. Maybe it was money. Marjorie asked for $250,000 from this bank. Nobody really knows why she asked for that amount until we got later on in the documentary, right? Maybe it was Marjorie's mania. Marjorie at this point is stone slap crazy. She is just making moves willy-nilly and taking lives and not giving a damn, okay? So maybe it was also Marjorie's plot to kill her father, okay? And I'll get into those different plot points in just a minute. The last motive that police think was the reason was Bill Rothstein's financial issues. So let's dive into these motives. Now, Marjorie's plot to kill her father. It may seem wild that Marjorie would just up and want to kill her father, right? But remember, her mother passed away when she was younger. And because her mother passed away, she was left a sizable inheritance, over $1 million, right? And so she was afraid that her father was squandering the money and spending it all, and she would be left with nothing, okay? Now, what the father really was doing was donating it to charity, to church, giving it away to people because he didn't need the money. You know, this was Marjorie's inheritance, but I'm guessing he was a trustee over the inheritance, which is why she could never get her hands on it. And Marjorie wasn't like the most responsible person because she was in full-on mania at this point, okay? So that is one of the motives where they think Marjorie might have wanted the money, okay? So when they interviewed her father point blank says, I knew Marjorie was kind of dark, very mean, very troubled from a young age. And so they asked him, how do you feel about her wanting to kill you? He said, I'm not surprised, in so many words. Okay, he knows his daughter was a psychopath, basically. So the dad ends up dying at 95 in 2004. So I don't know how much money was left, but surely Marjorie can't get her hands on it now because she was in prison at the time that he died, okay? The second motive, Bill Rothstein came from a well-to-do family. Both of his parents passed away and pretty much left him and his siblings the family home. Bill Rothstein was the only one who remained in the home and remained in Erie, right? So, of course, with all successions, if you have assets left over, some of the siblings may want to sell the assets for money and some may want to keep it. Bill Rothstein's siblings wanted to sell the house, split the proceeds. Bill wanted to buy them out and keep the house because that was his only home of record for all this time. So, possible motive was Bill wanting to buy out his siblings and keep the family home. Now, when asked about that, they asked his brother, and of course, he and his brother had a very rocky relationship, and so the brother held no lies when he told the tea, okay? So that is motive number 2. Now, of course, Marjorie had a gang of men willing to do her bidding and her murdering for her. One particular person that doesn't really fit in the whole scheme is a man by the name of Robert Panetti. Now, Robert Panetti also worked with Brian Wells at the pizzeria. Rumor has it, or it is believed, that Robert Panetti, if you believe that the initial plot was just to call a random pizza delivery guy and make him a patsy, if you believe that, Robert Panetti was believed to be the person intended to be the patsy. But for some reason, Robert Panetti never made that delivery. Either he wasn't at work that day or he was on another delivery, and Brian Wells became that guy, right? So they never had a chance to question Robert Panetti, because not too long after the heist and the murder, Robert Panetti commits suicide. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was a drug overdose, okay? So let's talk about Jennifer Hoopsick. So like I said before, Jennifer Hoopsick was a prostitute. She was a hooker. She went to jail a second time for prostitution charges recently. So she likes to hook. But the reason why she knows Brian is because, remember I said Brian likes hookers. And he's been with this hooker for a long time. Like, they low-key was going steady. And when the interviewers asked Jennifer Hoopsick, when they asked her, some background about Brian, she actually had feelings for him. She was more than a prostitute to him. They were friends, for lack of a better word, friends with literal benefits, okay? So more information comes out as they talk to Jennifer, and she says Kenneth Barnes actually had her bring Brian Wells to the house. It was a known drug den. Kenneth Barnes was a known addict or whatever. So Brian Wells would bring Hoopsick to Kenneth Barnes' house. They would screw. He would pay Hoopsick, and Hoopsick would go down and buy crack. It was a house of anything you wanted to do, you can do it at Kenneth Barnes' house, okay? So, of course, Marjorie Armstrong never gets out of prison. She is sentenced to life plus 30 years for a litany of charges because homegirl been busy, okay? Pretty much everyone in that conspirator circle was sentenced to jail. Kenneth Barnes went for 45 years. Marjorie went for life plus 30. Of course, Bill passed away, right? And Floyd Stockton Jr. was on trial for another charge in Washington State. He was supposed to testify against Marjorie in her trial, but had a stroke and couldn't go, right? So, at the end of it all, Marjorie on in lockup, right? She ends up dying from breast cancer in 2017. And that is the story of Marjorie Armstrong, Pennsylvania's evil genius. Now, whether or not you believe that she was the mastermind or you believe that Bill Rothstein was the mastermind, the point of the matter is Brian Wells died horrifically on public TV. All right? Thank you for joining this episode of Criminal Women Wednesday. That was Marjorie Armstrong, sis right here with no eyebrows. And the story behind the eyebrows is she wanted to appear insane. Didn't work. She got all that jail time as a total sane murderer. Okay? But anyway, join me next time on next Wednesday when I talk about another diabolical woman. You won't want to miss it. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.